News Hour, where you will hear from cannabis industry experts and professionals from around the country talk about important topics while shining light on global issues and discussing cannabis as it relates to politics, regulation and reform, data and technology, science, research and medicine, family and parenting, art, celebs and entertainment, fitness, sports, mental health and wellness, and plant-based medicines and enthogenics. Together, we are building a stronger community, fighting the stigma and creating change. With your hosts, Jason Beck, Rico Lamitte, and Nicole West, joined by special industry expert correspondents from around the country and daily antics brought to you by Cannabis. Coming to you live Monday through Friday at 9 a.m. Pacific Time. Thank you for getting high at 9 with us.
Oh, yeah. Good morning, everybody. It's Wednesday, October 19th. Today is International Gin and Tonic Day, World Pediatric Bone and Joint Day, National Kentucky Day, and National Seafood Bisque Day. Thank you for joining us and getting high at 9 with us. It's also high noon on the East Coast. And please remember to like, share, and subscribe to us on all social media platforms. We're live every Monday through Friday on YouTube and audio only on Clubhouse. And if you are joining us via Clubhouse, you can also participate in the show by raising your hand if you have a brief comment on the story most recently presented. Well, let's pay a quick bill so we can get right back to the news.
At True Classic OG, we live by one motto: stay true. We stay true to our legacy cut of True OG that's always fresh, piney, gassy, and delicious. We represent the spirit, hustle, and diversity of our great city of angels. And we stay true to the spirit of this plant, doing everything in-house to ensure that you get the highest quality and consistency with every batch. And that's what's made us LA's favorite OG. True Classic OG. Stay true, Los Angeles.
All right, let's get right into it. She is a cannabis business consultant, an industry veteran, a bullshit buster, and a general overall self-proclaimed data bitch with over 13 years in the regulated market, but with deep roots in the legacy industry as well. So much roots in the legacy industry that she did time for a cannabis crime and did some time in jail. That's right, it's none other than the Nicole West.
Good morning, everybody. Good morning. My headline today is a bit dry, but also a bit spicy at the same time. My headline's in regards to liability insurance. Now, I want to just kind of back into the conversation about Prop 65 in California. For those of you who are not familiar with what is going on in California, a lot of people think Prop 65 has something to do with Prop 64, which I think is adorable and ironic at the best. But Prop 65 has been around long before Prop 64 here in the state of California. It's the Clean Air and Drinking Water Act, and it's been around for almost over 30 years, since 1987, I believe, is when it was originally published. And basically what happens under Prop 65, this requires businesses to provide warnings to Californians about significant exposures to chemicals that cause cancer, birth defects, or other reproductive harm. So this is basically like a warning label that they have to put on things, but they have to put it on businesses too, right? So like if you walk into a business that roasts their own coffee beans in the state of California, by law, you need to have a Prop 65 warning on the door. The reason being is when you roast something, that burn is considered carcinogenic to the state of California. So when we're having the conversation about insurance, Prop 65 is actually something that we're going to see being used more and more against a lot of these companies. And I'm regularly telling people like, hey, if you don't have the right warning label, and this seems really stupid, right? So in the state of California, there are 3 chemicals in which under cannabis that the state believes causes cancer or reproductive harm and are dangerous. One is beta-myrcene, one is THC delta 9, and one is marijuana smoke. So if you have those 3 items, you have to list that the product has something that could cause reproductive harm or cancer. THC, they're saying, is the reproductive harm, and beta-myrcene as well as marijuana smoke are both carcinogenic according to the state of California. So if you don't put on your package the correct warning label, you are opening yourself up for a litany of lawsuits on a personal level, personal injury lawsuits. But apparently, if you file a lawsuit against Prop 65 or against something that has to do with Prop 65, you actually have to report that to the state's AG's office, which I thought was really interesting. I wasn't sure how those lawsuits actually got pushed through. But the headline today coming out of the National Law Review is about cannabis and hemp companies disregarding emerging product liability risk at their peril. And I just wanted to start with California because if anybody knows anything about California, we are literally the most lawsuit happy state in all 50, I would say. So novel cannabis products and our understanding of how they interact with our bodies are evolving in tandem with this unique compared to other consumer products. Although cannabis research has been outpaced by consumer behavior and public policy, it is now catching up. Relying on new studies, attorneys may soon seek to establish medical causation that links the use of high THC products and cardiovascular conditions, mental health issues, and other susceptibilities in certain consumer populations. The hemp industry is not immune, given the recent explosion of the unregulating but intoxicating hemp-derived products that contain levels of THC or HHC or THCO similar to the regulated cannabis products. In this article, we will describe how this evolving product risk and potential risk, an enormous failure of liability, and the hemp companies are currently unprepared. Now, this article is super long, but we will link it in the story. But this is something that I highly recommend anybody who is in the industry at all read and take seriously, because the insurance industry is waiting for us to fail and just gobble this up and come after a lot of these businesses. And I remind people, this industry, we're big enough to be suable, but we're not big enough to have the right litany of attorneys to protect ourselves. So a new breed of cannabis product litigation. As a society, we hold manufacturers liable for products that are unreasonably dangerous on the product market. What is unreasonably dangerous, however, is an open question when it comes to cannabis, since until recently, federal legality largely precluded the availability and reliable studies of questions at the safety and efficacy of the products. The number and quality of such studies have been increasing over the past few years, coinciding with cannabis legalization and at a state level, relaxation of rules around cannabis research, and removal of hemp from the Controlled Substances Act. Armed with new studies, potential of plaintiffs start seeking to use the courts as a quasi-regulator for the cannabis and hemp industries. Some lawsuits have already been alleged. For example, there are companies that take advantage of the public's perception of cannabis products as a safe and healthy despite the fact of THC and other cannabinoids that have been linked to various adverse side effects. It's also been alleged that although edible cannabis products are linked to more severe adverse effects than smoking marijuana, those products have been marketed to some companies as a safer or healthier alternative. The hemp industry, meanwhile, should brace itself for similar allegations brought against hemp-derived THC products. And I'm saying this in a big way, and I'm very excited. We have a headline later on about some of the other cannabinoids. So one thing that I do want to make sure that we are going to understand is the method ingestion is an important piece, right? How cannabis interacts with the body is also dependent on the method of ingestion of the physical characteristics of the cannabis user. For instance, there's syndrome called CHS, cannabinoid hyperemesis syndrome, which is basically an allergic reaction to your body of the cannabinoids that you're bringing in. So your endocannabinoid system is basically like flaring. That's not to say that that will happen to everybody, but that reality as a potential adverse reaction is something that, one, a lot of operators are being just complete a-holes and pretending that it doesn't exist and that people are making something up that doesn't. And two, they're going to have to really start to pivot to make sure that they're able to have these conversations and have them with education and compassion. So the impact of legalization has obviously changed a ton of this, but one of the biggest things I think that's causing this in a more rapid onset is the fact that we are increasing our THC concentrations. Many experts point to the increasing THC concentration in modern cannabis product as a leading cause of the uncertainty when attempting to quantify cannabis product risk. So there is been an uptake in emergency department visits and hospitalizations due to cannabis. The amount of people that, and I tell people, I make the joke and I'm like, if you have not had an oh shit moment with edibles, you haven't been humbled yet. But with that said, there are a lot of people that have that oh shit moment with edibles and end up in the emergency room. And so we're looking at, apparently California saw a rise of 56% in ER visits and hospitalization from 2016 to 2019 in regards to cannabis overdoses. So right now, the things that are being looked into that could be a potential issue is cardiac and vascular effects, microbial contaminations, and health effects. Now, this is a big one. A lot of people are getting by on a few different pieces in regulation in regards to contaminants and contaminant testing. If this is something that gets taken more seriously, which I believe it will, I think we're going to start seeing a lot of blind testing on cannabis products where people are going into the stores, purchasing them and testing them again after the fact. So making sure that we're really paying attention to all of the different factors in what's coming up. And at the end of the day, I know that a lot of people want to be just naysayers and say that this has to do with reefer madness, but what this has to do with being a professional adult in the cannabis industry and attempting to make sure that we're making good on this industry and not ignoring things that actually are real problems. And if we continue to just call any potential medical issue a reefer madness response, we are literally going to be digging ourselves into a world of litigation and lawsuits. So really, what's the answer? We have to understand the different things when it comes to chronic use, addiction, adolescence, pregnancy, drug interactions. We're in a really bad place. But what's the solution? One of the best solutions that I have seen or understand that we can have at this moment without the amount of research that we need is making sure that we are properly insured. While I do understand that the lines are very blurred in what this actually looks like, that doesn't mean that we don't need to act like responsible adults and properly insure ourselves. Decades of myth and disinformation around the supposed harm of cannabis have accumulated a lot of issues in regards to the Schedule I existence of cannabis, which is, obviously not serving us any benefit. But at the same time, when we look at the hemp bill, this is something that we are now getting closer and closer to having an understanding. And as I say every day, deschedule or bust. So really, the lessons can be drawn from alcohol and tobacco and pharmaceutical industries on how not to pursue commercial interest at the expense of vulnerable groups. To reduce product liability risks, myths and misconceptions about cannabis must be dispelled so the companies can engage in consumer information and informed evidence-based conversations about their cannabis products. This is something that I know that we need, but how long is that going to take, and how much money and how much energy is that going to take? In the meantime, one of the things that I know that people need to do is properly cover themselves, because there is going to be a litany of lawsuits around things that some might say are reefer madness, and some doctors might say are real, and some patients might say are affecting them. But at the end of the day, if we're not properly insured, we can get ourselves into a whole heap of trouble. And I'm super interested to hear what everyone else has to say on the audience. I want to hear what Dale has to say about Prop 65 and some of these personal injury lawsuits that are start coming out. And I've seen a couple of them recently. Nicole West, getting high at 9 for y'all.
What do you have to say about this, Dale?
Well, it's one layer that most people trying to get in the industry have not thought about. I've had some discussions with packaging people about where you put that Prop 65 label, and it's so small, an old fart like me can't even read it. So you wonder, what is the purpose of this? It just ticks off a box that we've warned you. But one of the issues that I run into with my clients is that the USDA and the FDA have different advertising and marketing rules. And cannabis is still treated a lot like a nutritional supplement. All the hemp products fall into that. You can't advertise about certain things unless you can prove it. But we haven't seen the array of litigation we can find. One of the things that I'm waiting to see is somebody takes an edible, gets in a car and drives and kills somebody or hurts them badly. And you know, or should know, that too much of an edible is going to make you a bad driver. How do you warn people about that? That's not a Prop 65 warning, but we may have to add more things onto these warnings. And another thing that the insurance industry will do is that they will rein in this industry, because if you get hit with a suit and the insurance company says, we're not going to cover that, well, you're basically screwed. And then the next time you go to apply for insurance, they're going to have more rules about what you have to comply with, your policies and procedures for packaging, advertising, things like that, or they won't issue a policy. So I see that coming. The insurance industry will rein a lot of this in, or they won't cover you. And going bare in an industry like this is not well advised.
No, do not go raw into this industry.
Ooh, baby,
you will get something nasty that you don't want.
I like
raw dog is a minor explanation of what's going to happen to you.
Yes, exactly.
What about raw frog?
Oh
Yeah,
gosh.
yeah,
Well,
yeah.
well, raw frog.
Did
That's
you
a
have
great.
did you have something on that, Dr. Mary?
Oh, I agree with you that the insurance industry certainly manages the medical industry. And I mean, these, you're right. There are so many different situations where a business puts their consumers at risk. Like you were saying, just even a person who grows develops acanthocyanids that concentrate on those, really those black grow marks are particularly carcinogenic. We just need to make sure that we have these, risks clearly defined to our community.
And
But
we
you're
do
right,
Absolutely.
everybody's going to have a bad edible experience.
Yeah.
and we do have Nick Bradley from the Clubhouse audience to make a brief comment on this. What do you have for us, Nick?
Yeah, I just want to make sure that manufacturers understand that as of October 1st, the short form warning on Prop 65 has gone away. We are currently in a 1-year grace period, but I did reach out to the Office of Environmental Health and Hazard Assessment. And what they said was that the existing short form warnings in section 25602A4 can be used on product labels manufactured prior to October 1st, 2023. Cannabis products manufactured on or after October 1st, 23 will not be eligible to use the existing short form warning to comply with the act. So the Prop 65 warning is actually markedly longer than cancer and reproductive health.
Ironically enough, Nick, it always has been. It's just the state and honestly, cannabis industry has found a little tiny bit of a loophole with the short form. And the short form technically was never legal if it was over 6 square inches on your packaging, but nobody actually read that part and everyone jammed the short form on it on these giant packages, but they've made it crystal clear. So we have a 1-year window, but we are super short on time. Thank you for that, Nick, in regards to Prop 65. And up next, we have Rico Lamitte. Rico Lamitte is our dope dad. He is out here constantly helping us understand why you shouldn't let your kids play professional ball and how that can mess you up internally, but also how cannabis can save lives and keep people from the awful shit that comes from the world when they put you into the world of pain pills. Rico, thank you for being here and being an advocate for this plant for us today.
Always. Thank you so much, Nicole. And I just wanted to say happy National Seafood Bisque Day to all my fellow pescatarians out there. Remember, life's a bisque and then you die. So get high. My headline today is from the Washington Post by Karina Elwood and John D. Harden. After Virginia legalized pot, majority of defendants are still black. Virginia is for lovers of whitewashing history and denying the existence of systemic racism. It's been a year now since my home state officially became the first in the South to legalize, and cannabis-related crime has dropped significantly in the Commonwealth state as expected. In 2019, there was more than 26,000 arrests, dropping to just over 13,000 in 2020. For all of 2021, just over 2,000 arrests. One of the pillars of the original legislation written into law by former Governor Ralph Northam was to lessen racial disparities in enforcement. But a new arrest analysis previously unavailable but secured via FOIA request by the Washington Post seems to show his replacement, Glenn Youngkin, tossed that shit out with the rest of the OG game plan, revealing Virginia police are still heavily favored to arrest black people more than white for weed offenses. Black adults account for nearly 60% of total arrests, despite only accounting for 20% of the state population. Concern mirroring results nationwide, despite lawmakers continuing to claim legalization as a vehicle for social equity. Per the article, gaps between intent and implementation persist, with white entrepreneurship steadily rising along with the majority of black people in legal markets comprising a bulk of the arrests. But who's to blame? John Getman, associate professor of criminology and criminal justice at Shenandoah University, says it's the cops. He's quoted in the article saying, "The police practices haven't changed. The laws they have to enforce have changed. But the practices haven't." And I agree. What he's referring to is structural organization in officer deployment locations. It's no secret police are more concentrated in black neighborhoods. The common response as to why is because of increased crime rates leading to the need for more of their services. But with a heavy police presence monitoring more activities in a concentrated area, of course, crime's being reported a lot more often. It's a self-fulfilling prophecy. Put more cops in white neighborhoods and they'll see a spike too. This, ladies and gentlemen, is what we call systemic racism, a very real concept, despite conservative lawmakers continuing to claim it doesn't, in cases like Virginia, with Governor Glenn Youngkin going as far as banning educational efforts to distribute data-backed studies, sounding the alarm that it is, in fact, the root of this country's racial issues. We need to atone for our past sins. Y'all know where I'm going with this one. Critical race theory, CRT, Jason. Better known to insecure conservatives nationwide as the acronym that must not be spoken. Virginia law allows for individuals 21 and older to possess up to an ounce in public and cultivate up to 4 plants at a time. But sales are still illegal, so distribution charges make up majority of the arrests, and possession of more than an ounce under Northam was subject to a $25 civil penalty. But good old Governor Glenn proposed and signed into law this July, establishing new misdemeanor charges for possession over 4 ounces. Possession over a pound, that's a felony now, along with selling more than an ounce. The post-analysis found more than 1,700 code citations between July 1st, 2021 and the end of June this year. Absent from the data was information from the Alexandria Circuit Court and the state's juvenile court, and race data was simply labeled black, white, Asian, and unknown, like there's no other races. Y'all motherfuckers wonder why I don't go home much. Overall, citations dropped by about 90% in Virginia from 2019, which is a good thing. But the smaller numbers show how much deeper the police targeting problem is. Chesterfield County had the second highest number of arrests behind Virginia Beach, despite being the 5th most populous region. Both regions are more heavily populated with black residents than their northern counterparts, with Chesterfield coming in at 25% black and Virginia Beach 18%. Chesterfield had black defendants making up 71% of 110 pot-related cases. Fairfax County, on the other hand, is most white. It's the state's most populous county, majority white, at 51%, and black defendants still up there are over 31% of their 108 cases, with less than 9% of the population. So how do you say the system is racist without saying that it's racist? You don't. You call it what the fuck it is and look to find solutions at the root. But if we keep electing bum-ass lawmakers like Glenn Youngkin and anyone else attempting to whitewash history and censor data-backed education exposing these issues, it'll only get worse. I'm Rico Lamitte, dopest dad on the street, and this is High at 9 News. Want to talk CRT, Jason?
I mean, CRT. I mean, you don't want to talk CRT with me, Rico.
I will all fucking day, bro. Let's go.
I don't. I do believe.
Let's talk about cannabis stuff, though.
Yeah,
that's
exactly.
What our show's about.
I do believe.
Cannabis.
I do believe that that the statistics do show that, and I do believe that those types of things do need to be addressed in a societal way, 100%, without a doubt. I believe that people should just be arrested if they're doing crimes, as opposed to just smoking weed.
Indeed. I mean, Glenn Youngkin took a huge step back when he reversed all the policies that Northam went in, and I know that elections come with consequences and all that shit, but it was a huge step backward. And bringing back the felonies for possession, man, come on, it's utter bullshit. And the way that he did it is garbage. And then the fact that he was actively trying to block this information from getting out, and they had to get it via FOIA request. Like, how is that going to help anything? And that's why I brought up CRT. This is the same fucking shit that they're trying to block racially charged data showing that the system is fucked up. How are we going to progress if we don't go through the process first?
Well, we do have Dr. Felicia from Clubhouse to talk about this. Dr. Felicia, do you have a brief comment on this? Because we've got to get to the next story.
Yes, good morning. He already kind of stole what I was going to say. Elections, voting matters. Elections have consequences. That's all I want to say.
You are so right, Dr. Felicia. Make sure that you register to vote and make sure that your voice is heard.
Vote.
That part.
Anybody else on that one? We have any VA people in the house? 2 up, 2 down. No VA people in the building, bro. Let's keep it moving then.
We're rolling.
As a felon, the woman formerly known as
I already did my story.
Nicole already went. It's me, bro.
I was the first one. I was the first
Up
one.
next, we got another story from the longest continuously operating retailer in the industry, better known as Gucci Blanco, down in Mar-a-Lago. In Detroit, he's known as White Gucci, where he rocks mink coats, and hops off the PJ, ready to smoke some CBD or sell some CBD to people so they can get popped. Jason Beck, what do you have for us today, man?
People
Where are you, man? You in Egypt today?
I'm in Egypt because
Great
my
Pyramids
story,
of
my
Giza?
story, yeah, my story comes out of Africa today. So I figured
it.
I would just take the PJ over to Egypt so I could broadcast live and direct from you guys.
Gas it on up.
Because yes, nearly 10,000 kilograms of cannabis is seized in raids across 12 states in Nigeria. 56 blocks of illegal cannabis weighing about 31 kilograms were recovered from a man and a married pregnant woman. Podokizum, the largest city in Yobe State, according to Nigeria's National Drug Law Enforcement Agency, NDLEA. The cannabis was found during a raid, the agency reports. The country's National Drug Law Enforcement Agency Act notes it as an offense to conspire with, aid, abet, counsel, or attempt to commit a breach of the act. Doing so makes the perpetrator liable upon conviction of being sentenced to imprisonment for not less than 15 and no more than 25 years. For its part, Nigeria's Indian Hemp Act states cannabis is illegal to plant, cultivate, import, export, sell, possess, use, or have related paraphernalia. The unlawful importation or sale of cannabis shall be guilty of an offense or be liable of conviction to be sentenced to imprisonment for a term of not less than 21 years. And even those found smoking or unlawfully possessing weed, regardless of amount, are subject to at least 4 years imprisonment without the option of a fine upon conviction. Other women have, in fact, pretended to be pregnant to smuggle weed. With regards to the latest NDLEA roundup, the pregnant woman was just one of more than 24 people involved in a range of cannabis and narcotics-related offenses in Nigeria in recent days. Another incident, this time, the village of Chachuku, a 35-year-old woman was implicated in illegal weed, may not have been pregnant, but she was still nursing. NDLEA reports operatives stormed a village on October 15th and raided a large cannabis warehouse on site. A total of 510 jumbo bags of the illicit substance weighing 5,640 kilograms were recovered from the store, and a nursing mother in charge was arrested, the Post states. In recent days, the NDLEA carried out raids across 12 states and ended up arresting 29 people and seizing, among other things, 9,437.6 kilograms of cannabis and 138,053 tablets of pharmaceutical opioids. The cannabis finds included 99 bags of weed and 3 bags of seeds weighing 1,286 kilograms, 410 kilograms of marijuana, 50 bags of pot weighing 623 kilograms, and 266.8 kilograms of actual hard bud. And additionally, 4 cannabis farms were shut down, and 9 Ghanaians were each convicted and sentenced to 8 years in prison after earlier attempting to smuggle just almost 10,845 kilograms of cannabis into Nigeria by sea. Well, I'll tell you what, this is just a travesty that these pregnant women are being arrested and treated in this manner. And it pains my heart to hear about these types of stories. I do have a very close friend of mine who actually gave birth in a U.S. Prison facility, handcuffed to bed rails. And so my heart goes out to all of these women. And this is Jason Beck reporting to High at 9 News.
So 22,000 pounds of straight boof packs.
Straight boof.
Okay, so California right now, you can get like a pound of outdoor for like $300.
I had someone text me.
Like
someone text me yesterday saying that they had outdoor pounds of weed for $100, to which I responded back, that's really expensive.
Okay, so let's say 150.
Was it like $50 in Oregon?
I mean, yeah, it's rough out there for outdoor.
So it's anywhere between $1 and $3 million worth of weed at like low prices.
Mm-hmm.
That's
Low.
It's still
I'm
a
just
lot of
shocked.
weed, man. Like
That's
even at
just
like
so much
$12 a pound, that's a lot of fucking
It's
weed. Like
so much weed.
I've destroyed one time. I had to destroy 1,800 pounds of weed, and like it was insane to see that much weed in one place. Like I had never seen that much weed just in like bags and bags and bags like
It's
that.
crazy.
It's a lot. So
Yeah.
like, what the fuck? It's like a whole fucking chip, just like packed
Just-
with boof packs.
Yep. Pretty much.
This is.
I mean, there was was there other drugs? I'm sorry, did I miss that? Was there other drugs?
There was in one
Yeah.
of them where they said that they did find some opioid pills.
Oh, so like
That
somebody
was-
who has a pill problem, probably.
Well, no, it sounded like this was like a drug shack is what they found, where they found all the weed. It was like a warehouse, and they found in addition to in this warehouse. Over the course, my story covers, I think, in between 3 to 4 different arrests or different instances with the NDLEA doing enforcement on cannabis.
That's a whole lot of boof, man.
Bro. I'm just like, man.
I would say like it'd be like good content weed if you're like trying to like smoke some shit and like try to like not get too high, but you could just have a fucking headache and get fucking sick from that shit. How much
mold is in all that weed from just sitting around? Because it's not probably stored properly. I know I've bought weed in Africa before, and they didn't even have a sandwich bag to put it in. They wrapped it up in a newspaper.
Oh yeah.
So,
the mold,
doo-doo packs, man.
Yeah.
Okay, so original traditional Thai stick is technically wrapped and packed and fermented. So it grows another, like how LSD comes from ergot, right? It's like a mold that's growing on wheat.
Yeah, ergot.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So the reason why Thai stick gets you so fucked up is not the weed, it's the fermentation, and it basically creates like an external hash out on the outside. So I'm super fucking interested to see what that turns out, like when we start testing that, to see like why are they getting like so high. But I'd be willing to bet that the mold is the biggest concern.
Yeah.
You saw how that shit was packed.
Hallucinating all that shit.
They didn't use the good food saver bags or nothing.
No, that's just packed in old sheets.
Yeah, for all the parents out there, it looks like the fucking doo-doo bags out of your diaper, Genie.
You would know. You are the dope dad. You're the one that,
straight
you know what I'm saying? Yeah, you have
those fucking blue bags.
Yeah.
All my dope dads and dope mamas out there know what the fuck I'm talking about.
Oh boy, here we go.
It pretty much was diaper Genie. It was just fucking straight boof packs.
Oh man,
seriously.
That was great conversation, you guys. Thank you all so much for that.
You got the ad.
Flying into LAX and you want to taste some of the best weed in the world? Then stop by LAXCC, the closest dispensary to LAX, located at 8332 Lincoln Boulevard and open from 8 a.m. to 10 p.m. 7 days a week. Always make LAXCC your first stop when you touch down in LA and score like a winner. And don't forget to tell them I sent you and mention you'd like to get high at 9 for 10% off your full order.
The thoughts and opinions general shade thrown on the High at 9 News are those of the individual speakers, not those of any other speaker or its followers. The statements made do not constitute legal or accounting advice, and our speakers make no representation regarding the legal status of any substance in any country, territory, or authorities. The views expressed in this room do not establish fiduciary relationships. Our sponsors do not imply constitute the endorsement by us, the expression of any opinion whatsoever, any person, speaker on stage. If you're an easily offended person, this show is probably not for you. Also, do you even know what HHC is?
October 23rd and 24th, join Bella Flor for their celebrity golf and poker tournament with confirmed attendees like Derek Fisher, formerly of the LA Lakers, celebrity chef Todd English, David Justice of the Atlanta Braves, and Paul Pierce, along with many others. With a portion of proceeds benefiting the nonprofit Freedom Grow, join Bella Flor in Temecula Creek, California, October 23rd and 24th. Go to www.bellafloragolf.com for full sponsorship opportunities.
This New York City-based 25-year board-certified medical doctor with Michigander roots is widely respected expert in CBD. And she's also here to serve us up our daily dose of truth. Dr. Mary Clifton, what you got for us today?
Thank you, Rico, for that introduction. I have a great review article from published in the ABA City blog about HHC, What is HHC and what's the hype behind it? This is a really long article, so I encapsulated it for you just to get all of the top points. There's been a growth in interest surrounding cannabinoids that are derived from hemp. CBD, CBN, even THC, Delta 9 can be derived from hemp with all the potential benefits and downfalls. One of the compounds that has been getting the attention of many people is HHC, or tetrahydrocannabinol. HHC is among one of the fastest growing products in the cannabis market. HHC is a THC, but with more hydrogen molecules. The increase in the hydrogen molecules gives the HHC a much firmer structure and therefore a longer shelf life. Scientists have been making HHC since back in the 1940s through a chemical process called hydrogenation, which was the process of extracting and distilling the hemp plants to separate THC or CBD during hydrogenation. Adding zinc or nickel can be used as a catalyst to further convert the THC into HHC. Many lawmakers believe that HHC should be subjected to the same standards as Delta 9, and other local districts that have introduced bans on Delta 8 are also considering bans on HHC and these other hemp-derived concentrates as they gain in popularity. Some of the potential benefits include that it may do a lot of the same things that cannabis does, offer an improved restorative sleep, alleviate nausea and vomiting. It may decrease inflammation, and it also may alleviate stress and anxiety. However, in some people, it may also aggravate anxiety. It produces a stimulation of a feeling of euphoria, auditory, perceptual, and visual changes, altered cognition, and also changes in body temperature and heart rate, similar to THC. It's thought to be more potent than D8, but slightly less potent when compared to D9. D8 users might feel a little bit more of a boost, but THC users might perceive it as sort of a weed light. It gives a pleasant head buzz, and it's considered a good option for people who are starting to use the hemp-derived concentrates or who really haven't used a lot of cannabis in the past. One thing that the article didn't talk about is making formulations with HHC and how difficult that can be, because it is a bit more flammable, a bit more explosive when you're working with it than Delta 9 or Delta 8 THC. And it just has to be handled a little bit more carefully when you're working in your, to produce your high quality vape or edible. And I have had one or two patients described to me that their HHC vape was actually smoking when they after they used it, and they were concerned about the vape pen itself having an explosion, which you hear about every now and then. But I haven't heard of that being concentrated in HHC any more than any other vape pens. So most of my patients are describing it as very similar to THC. But I wouldn't say that my patients are switching over to HHC from THC or Delta 8. Many of my ADHD and insomnia patients are going to Delta 8 and saying that they're getting a different experience and an improved experience for ADHD and insomnia. But people are feeling like HHC is just more of an equivalent experience. So I'd be interested to hear what everybody thinks about HHC, and of course take the usual beating that I take whenever I promote hemp-derived concentrates in this community. So I'm Mary Clifton, coming to you from Manhattan.
Mary, I want to say I'm definitely one of the people that have come at you sideways about it, but not because I don't agree with the cannabinoids or the compounds. It's because if we're all under the same understanding that there needs to be some level of consumer safety regulation, and the way that the hemp industry is getting away with the bullshit is my problem, Dr. Mary. The fact that they can sell snake oil and put some fucked up label on it, and there's no regulators and there's nobody coming to say you didn't put the right font size on this, when it's essentially a lighter version of the same thing that we're selling. And if we have to do that to sell CBD, which has minimal psychotropic and psychoactive activity through cannabis plants in the regulated market, they should absolutely have to do it with HHC or THCO or Delta 8 or whatever. I'm not saying that they're bad cannabinoids. I want to make sure you understand. I appreciate your pushing access for cannabinoids, but I do think safety is important.
Oh, I
Will this
agree.
come up on a drug test?
Packaging,
Yes.
labeling.
HHC will come up on a drug test.
You know, there was a question that it might not because it doesn't turn into the hydrogenated THC when it stores. But I haven't.
What
been
about
able
when it's
to
digested if you eat it?
I don't know. I mean, I don't know. I have heard that it will elude a drug test, and that may be part of the reason why it's increasing in popularity, but I don't know that for sure.
I feel like we need to just do we just need to do that. Like, we need to find somebody who like doesn't consume and be like, will you eat this HHC and see if we can fail this drug test?
Yeah, or maybe like 50 people, because then we might find that with higher usage amounts that you
Right.
see a little bit of it transition over, and that'd be enough to get you busted.
Yeah.
One of the things that I'm dealing with, I have clients who convert CBD to these isomers, if you will. And states like California just come out and said, if it's an isomer of THC, it's illegal here. You got to go through our regulated industry. But this points out the tension between the USDA over nutritional supplements and the FDA over drugs. And my clients, I mean, the wink, wink, nod, nod, we're shipping CBD around. We find a friendly place, we convert it to Delta 9, or we convert it to the other things, and it's evading the draconian federal laws against high THC products. And we have yet to see people really get spanked for advertising the bullshit that you recognize, Michelle. I mean, Nicole, the
way that they're extracting is super unsafe too. Like, that's probably been, like, Dr. Mary, you've heard me come at that. Like, I've seen, and you can do it so cheap. Like, the quality materials to do it right are expensive, right? Like, quality extraction of this shit is expensive. So if you're getting pennies on the dollar, you're likely getting like fucking heavy metals and fucking acid left over, because they're using sulfuric acids. They're using like cheap metals instead of the quality metals. Like, there's a bunch of, you know, variables that come into this. And what I'm saying, when things are done well and handled well and clean and everything, I'm not fighting against the cannabinoid. I'm not fighting against the medicinal value of a cannabinoid. I'm fighting against the process that it took you to get there.
Well, and I think that's part of the reason why so many regulatory industries are having trouble with it, because you do have to take the concentrated CBD and then convert it to Delta 9 before you convert it to a lot of these to HHC and D8. So really, you are still working with THC. That's why it's still regulating this and figuring out exactly where it falls, if it truly falls under the Farm Bill, is tricky, because if
deschedule or bust.
It's a THC product,
Exactly.
you know.
Yeah, I think the more that we continue to prohibit real cannabis from hitting the market, the more we're going to see these derivatives come out, and they're dangerous.
Yeah.
Like, we don't know enough about them to actually put them out there and to put these in people's bodies. You know, like, I'm just all for just legalize all the things, and
I mean, I honestly,
let Darwinism take place.
I honestly feel like HHC is probably as dangerous as hydrogenated soybean oil, when you actually think about like your day-to-day use and like what it took to get there. And then people that are regularly consuming hydrogenated soybean oil, like, it's
We can't
fucking
just
trash.
call it the corn syrup of hemp.
I mean,
Everybody
Scissor.
just wants flour.
Yeah,
you know?
high
corn
fructose.
scissor.
You need to
great
High
flour.
You need to say high
fructose.
fructose.
High fructose.
They don't have to say that anymore, which is fucked up.
Yeah.
You know, and I think the best thing that states can do when they move toward legalization is identify their existing distribution systems and support the existing distribution systems. They already have a good consumer panel in place. They've proven themselves to be safe because they have people who respect them and have used them for years. The best way to move the industry forward is to support the existing market.
I thought Delta 10 was next.
Well, I mean, we're not even going to get in that one, bro. We're talking about HHC right now. But nonetheless, we got to keep it moving. She's a Florida-based entrepreneurial boss lady, leading the charge for the ultimate cannabis lifestyle brand, Black Buddha Cannabis. Also the founder and CEO of Minorities for Medical Marijuana. Coming up next is none other than the Roz McCarthy.
Jason Beck, you always make me smile. Good morning, everyone. Good afternoon.
Good morning.
Roz McCarthy here. Let me take my gum out my mouth. How about that? Can you hear me?
We hear you loud and clear, Roz.
Awesome, awesome. So my story is coming from actually from Today News, and it's what doctors want women to know about cannabis and menopause. So I chose this story because guess what, guys? I'm going through menopause, and I felt like I would personalize this story. And I have Dr. Felicia Dawson, who is an OBGYN, who's also going to jump on and share her insight. So here we go. When it comes to perimenopause and menopause, many experience symptoms that make them feel uncomfortable and even downright miserable at times. Yes. Yet more and more people are finding a new way to cope. Some have found that marijuana can help with hot flashes, sleep disturbance, mood changes, and vaginal dryness and pain. While more feel comfortable turning to cannabis to help, there's little research showing whether it works or how to use it. The research we have about using cannabis, whether it's marijuana or CBD, to help with menopausal symptoms is really lacking, states Dr. Jennifer Lincoln, the author of the book, Let's Talk About Down There, and OBGY answers all your burning questions without making you feel embarrassed for asking. She said because the U.S. Food and Drug Administration considers cannabis a Schedule I drug, meaning it has no accepted medical use, it really ties our hands and makes research very difficult. There are FDA-approved treatments such as hormone therapy that work really well for many symptoms. Historically, women's health, things that affect women's health tend to be under-researched and underfunded. But we do know there are good treatments to deal with symptoms of menopause, whether it's vaginal dryness or hot flashes or mood disturbances. They are well studied. Still, many might feel like their symptoms are simply part of aging and don't seek help for them. Or they might try to discuss it, but feel as if they're being dismissed. This could contribute to people seeking cannabis to help. Why people in menopause are turning to cannabis. A study from 2020 found that nearly 27% of people in menopause use marijuana to ease symptoms. Another 10% indicated they wanted to use marijuana to cope with the symptoms, while only 19% used traditional treatments. People are going through menopause are left thinking, well, I don't know where else to turn, so I might as well try cannabis, Lincoln explained. I feel for them because they feel like nobody's listening to them. Dr. Lauren Stricker, medical director of Northwestern Medical Center for Sexual Medicine and Menopause, has been writing a series of books about menopause symptoms. In her latest, Hot Flash Hell, she explained how to use marijuana as a treatment for hot flashes in one chapter. What we know is there are a lot of women who are using cannabis to alleviate menopause symptoms. Yes. And they really have no direction at all. There's not been a lot of research done. She looked at what experts do know about cannabis and applied it to how some might want to use it for menopause. Any information that I give is based on the science behind cannabis, as opposed to a study where we took 1,000 menopausal women with hot flashes and we gave half of them cannabis. She said, we don't have those studies. Stritcher also stated surveying people to understand what symptoms cause them to take cannabis is really important. Overall, the two things that people are using cannabis for are hot flashes and sleep. And of course, they go together, she said. It's the hot flashes that, in the majority of cases, are keeping women awake at night. And when I say, who directed you as to what to take? Over 50% said nobody. I was just trying to figure it out on my own. So I'll pause right there with the story. I will tell you that cannabis definitely works. A good 1-to-1 vape pen CBN, because we have a hard time sleeping, we have hot flashes. And so the fact that there's been no research does not surprise me. There's no research on cannabis from a medical perspective anywhere right now, especially at the federal level. I mean, there's some studies, but nothing in regards to that is very complex. So right now, women are left to try it out on their own, listen to stories like this, talk to people to Dr. Felicia Dawson, to be able to figure out options to be able to care for themselves and make sure that they stay cool when the infamous hot flashes happen, because they are real and they suck. And I'm Roz McCarthy, sign off for High News at 9. Would love to hear your thoughts.
Thank you for bringing this story, Roz. Cannabis can help because it's part of the cannabis or cannabinoid tetrad of hypothermia. Cannabis actually lowers your body temperature, so that can be very helpful with hot flashes. Cannabis also helps with the anxiety, the depression, pains, trouble sleeping, helps to relax the muscles, and it also increases blood flow to the genitals and increases nerve sensitivity and increases libido, so that orgasm is possible and or much better. estrogen and anandamide travel together. And when our ovaries conk out, so does our anandamide and other endocannabinoids. And they theorize that that's what causes hot flashes. And that's why over about 70% of people get relief with cannabis for hot flashes. So it's definitely on point.
And so, we have so many people that listen to this now live and then going to listen to this again. And, and some of the side effects of menopause, like there's depression, it's real. Anxiety is real. And so I'm just encouraged that, one, this was addressed in a mainstream type of news format. And I encourage women who are looking for options for care to look at cannabis as an option. And you may not have a doctor that prescribes it or says, hey, this is what you need to go look for. But, sometimes it's just trial and error. And I don't know about you, Dr. Felicia, if there's any delivery system that you think is best. I like vaping myself because when I vape, it works. And one, it reduces my anxiety, but also, especially at night, it helps me to sleep. So is there any delivery system that you would recommend, or what do you think?
I want to give a plug, Dr. Felicia. I'm sorry to interrupt. I want to give a plug to suppositories before Dr. Felicia, because I know she'll have some insightful things to say about after I say something kind of funny. But I want to give a plug to suppositories, because suppositories, I'm a cervical cancer survivor. And as somebody who's utilized suppositories as a method of actually getting direct care to the place at hand that I'm having my problems. And also men should know a lot with prostate issues in regards to anal suppositories. And we need to be able to have this health conversation without it being like a joke. It needs to be able to be had. And I just want to give a shout out for suppositories.
I know you said no. I know you said no jokes there, but you did say plug and suppositories.
I know. I did.
Exactly,
I tried not. I tried to not laugh
right.
when I said it. I tried to not laugh when I said it.
That was super funny, Nicole. My dad developed prostate cancer as he got older, and it was the one time I thought my mother might actually truly kill him was when he left church one day and went to the back of the church, and he was fanning his coat because they had put him on Lupron and withdrawn his testosterone, rapidly, and so he was having hot flashes. So he came back into church and sat next to mom and said, "Those hot flashes are real."
Oh, yeah.
I'm sorry for interrupting you, Dr. Felicia, though.
They are so real. Dr. Felicia, before you go, I want to just tap into what Nicole said. There is a young African-American lady in Canada. Her name is Antoinette Gomez, and she has been working not only there was a little studies on suppository, but she's been a big supporter, has a line of suppositories that are THC driven suppositories for women. And I know that's a big issue that she's addressing. So I want to give her a quick shout out. So yes, Dr. Felicia.
Well, in terms of the safest delivery, I know you said vaping, and I'm assuming that's a vape pen. Yes. I'm with Nicole. I'm really more into electronic vaporizers made for dry herb because of all the problems with heavy metals and plastics and all that with the vape pens. But bringing it. Is
a hot flash or is a heavy metal right there? And I was like, I got to get this down.
I hear you, but most postmenopausal women do use both. They use inhalation and edibles or oral, because edibles or oral stuff will kick into that more potent, 11-hydroxy THC and last longer. The smoking, the inhalation will only last a couple of hours, and then you might wake up in the middle of the night, versus an edible will last a lot longer. And women, we convert THC to 11-hydroxy THC much more than men do. So most women do better with using both or just edibles. And I will say that the biggest impacts on women's bodies and brain are pregnancy and menopause. So
Thank you so much for that, Roz and Dr. Felicia. Super important information. And the fact that edibles affect women more is something that definitely, that knowledge bomb at the end was not missed on me. So we are a little short on time, so we're going to go ahead and hop to Dale Schaefer. Dale has 35 years practicing law as an attorney, with 23 years in the California cannabis space specifically. Dale is a former member of Club Fed, serving 52 months for cultivation and intent to distribute to a handful of terminally ill patients. He has also started his cannabis adventure as the co-owner of the California Medical Research Center and is now the founding partner of Armada Log Corp. What do you have for us today, Dale?
Good morning, everybody. My headline comes out of Law 360, and it reads, California panel won't review denial of cannabis permit. And what it involves is what I typically get involved in with ongoing cases are ship sandwiches. It comes out of the city of Maywood, and we have someone who filed an application for a conditional use permit. You know, we've all done those in these cities, and it got denied. So she had an attorney involved, which was a shocker for me because this case was really turned into a shit sandwich, I think, by the attorney. But when you file for these permits and they're denied, then you have a right to appeal to the elected body, the city council in this case, or to a board of supervisors, because the planning commission takes in evidence, makes a finding, as they're setting what we call quasi-judicial. Take in evidence, make a finding. If you don't like the finding, you can take it to the city council. In this case, they did. The city council said, no, we're not giving you a permit. There's issues here about how close you are to some restricted activities. Your driveway is a problem for the zoning area you're in, things like that. It was denied. So an attorney apparently filed for a writ of administrative mandamus, which means that we didn't like what the city council had to say. We're going to take it to a trial level court, and you have to take a record with you of what evidence was presented, what the findings were. And then you have this basically a small trial with the evidence. They review it, and the trial court said, nah, denied. So what we have here is the attorney, and I'm going to assume the attorney did this. He filed a pleading with the appellate court, and they really have some strict rules there. Don't bring up bullshit unless you got evidence to back it up. And what they did was they alleged basically some bullshit without any evidence to back it up. And what the panel said is, listen, we have rules here. You have to bring forth a record of what evidence was presented, and you have to accurately portray the findings, which this guy didn't do. So the court said, we're not going to look at this. If you don't follow our rules, we void your entire appeal and you're done. Now, I bring this up because last week I talked about the Cushy Punch case where the court had issued some rulings about discovery. And discoveries, we ask questions, you're supposed to respond. If you don't, the court can sanction you like Alex Jones got sanctioned, and there's no more trial and liability, dude. It's all about damages because you wouldn't answer questions. Well, this is a theme of an attorney or a client or both of them just totally torpedoing a case. And I looked the attorney up, and I'm old, just be clear. I got licensed in 1987, and I'm getting up there with the age of dirt. This guy was 20 years deep in practice before I got my license. So the guy's like, you know, I think Joe Biden may have been in junior high school and this guy was in college. Okay. He's old. And I don't know if that played into why this guy fucked this up so much, but he did. Okay. And what I want people to understand is that if you're going to hire an attorney, it does make a difference, the quality of the attorneys that you get. Because what we're seeing in the California industry right now is we're in the latent phase and everyone's suing the shit out of each other. They really are. And so I've got litigation cases going on right now. And I find on the other side, people just don't know what they're doing. Or maybe they've never been in a courtroom and had to say something without stepping on their virile member. Because all of these things make a difference. Okay. And what I see here is I think the attorney just screwed the pooch here. And she lost her appeal. I don't think she was ever going to win in the first place. But other times, there have been conscious decisions where you tell your attorney, I don't want you to bring these things up or don't respond. And as attorney myself, what I do is I paper my file. I told you should do this. You said not to do it. Here's the consequences of not doing it. So I don't get sued for malpractice as you walk off the cliff. So there's my lesson for the day. And we'll have themes like this coming up. I'm interested in anybody else's comments here.
That was great, Dale. That was great. I love the protection that you put on yourself to ensure yourself from stupidity.
Everybody's suing everybody. That is a real statement right now, bro. I actually have been watching some lawsuits happen recently that I literally look at people and like, this is literally just a waste of your money. I've heard people say, I will spend every dollar I have to make them regret that decision. And I'm like, Damn, that is
So,
fucked
yeah.
up. What
Dying
the
on
fuck
the
is
hill.
wrong with people?
Dying
Well,
on the
but it's
hill.
real because I mean, there's a litigation strategy. You just paper everything you can, drag your feet.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
what I want people to understand is like in the Alex Jones case, they got tired of waiting. It's like, you don't get to have a trial anymore, dude. You have fucked around so long, and you
And now
really
we found out.
fucked around to find out what happens here, and they did. And in
The
this
rate of
case, the
fuck
appellate
around to
panel
find
said
out met.
you have to
Yes,
give
we-
us certain information. You didn't. Bye. Get the hell out of my court.
We
Okay.
have reached that 7 point on the X and Y axis where you have all fucked around and you are now going to find out. Thank you all out there for tuning in and getting high at 9 with us yet again. Pacific at 9 a.m. Pacific and high noon on the East Coast, which is not as good as the West Coast, but that's why we call this the best coast. But anyways, you can find us weekdays at 9 a.m. And big shout out to all of our audience and supporters tuning in daily to the live news feed of Chaos, also known as the developing cannabis industry. A very special thanks to all of our haters out there with enough free time to talk shit daily about us. Remember, your breath is horrible, and we love you a little more than your parents did. Thank you to all of our sponsors, True Classic, Bellaflor Golf Tournament, the Bellaflor Golf Tournament, and LAXCC, our vetted industry correspondents for tuning in and helping us out from all over the globe and bringing a much needed variety of perspectives and respected opinion to the headlines that we cover. Our production team over at 3 is 4 Media making us look and sound so fucking good on the daily, and Jaja Simone holding it down for us in Clubhouse. And finally, thank you to Cannabis Sativa, Mama Juana, the baddest chick of them all, for giving us a reason to do this every day. You have all been tuned in to another episode of High at 9 News, and we are done for the day. And remember, everybody out there, when life gives you no place else to turn, you can always turn the fuck up. DJ.
You are tuned in to the High at 9 News Hour, where you will hear from cannabis industry experts and professionals from around the country talk about important topics while shining light on global issues and discussing cannabis as it relates to politics, regulation and reform, data and technology, science, research and medicine, family and parenting, art, celebs and entertainment, fitness, sports, mental health and wellness, and plant-based medicines and enthogenics. Together, we are building a stronger community, fighting the stigma and creating change. With your hosts, Jason Beck, Rico Lamitte, and Nicole West, joined by special industry expert correspondents from around the country and daily antics brought to you by Cannabis. Coming to you live Monday through Friday at 9 a.m. Pacific Time. Thank you for getting high at 9 with us.